there's one thing that all of these makeup looks have in common. I did them. As a professional makeup artist, one of my favorite things to do is a soft and snatched baddie glam. Welcome to the art of the baddie glam, where I'm gonna be teaching you a signature soft glam baddie makeup look. There's a reason that this look is all over your Pinterest and all over your feed. As a professional makeup artist, this look is highly requested, and it's for a reason. This is a look that you can find on almost every makeup artist's page, just done in a different way. The end result just has to be clean, snatched, and effortless. So get your brushes out, get your makeup out, and let's get into it. Unless you're new here, you already know what I'm gonna say. Prep that skin. You want it to be hydrated. This is the skin prep combo that I went with today. I did do my brows off camera. Typically when I do a client, I start with brow. And now taking a little bit of concealer on a flat brush, I'm gonna go right under this brow to clean it lightly, a fluffy brush, and bring that concealer down onto the lid. This is gonna act as our eyeshadow base. Taking a little more on the fluffy brush and just focusing it right on my lid. Doing it with a skin tone concealer just cleans it up and evens it out really nicely. I'm gonna set the lid down. One of my favorite pro tricks is to use a powder puff and a powder foundation. This just gives the most flawless base, but you can use a loose powder too. I want you to take your favorite bronzer and put that all over your crease with a fluffy brush. It's gonna be our groundwork color. This is gonna be the color that brings everything together. Don't be scared to bring it a little bit into the start of your brow here and all throughout the lid like this. Your next color needs to be a little warmer and a little darker than this. One of my favorite shades is this one in the Makeup by Mario palette. Again, now I'm gonna run this color through my crease. When you get to the end of your eye, I want you to just wing it out a little bit. This is gonna give you that nice snatched eye effect. Typically when I do this look, I stick to bronzy tones. This is where you can decide if you wanna go deeper or smokier and add a darker brown in the crease, but I'm gonna stop here. You can always add more dimension in the end. Now I'm gonna take a more nude and neutral tone, so I'm gonna mix this and place this on my lid. You can do this with your powder foundation too. I do that all the time. I'm gonna place this with a flat brush right onto the lid. As you can see, I'm just patting it, which is also lightly blending and buffing it into the bronzy tones. Just like it to flow. Don't really have a cut creasy look. That's not what we're going for here. You want it to be a very airbrushed and gradient effect. And I build this up until I'm happy with the opacity of it. I'm going back in with my bronzy color. I'm just gonna diffuse that so it's not too harsh. Now, usually for a baddie look, I always do some sort of a wing liner. I'm gonna use a gel liner. This is the Cacao liner from Kryolan, and it is the prettiest reddish brown color. If you're not good at eyeliner, just go in with a little bit of eyeshadow and wing that out. This is what the wing that I created looks like. Just something really simple and classic, more thin at the end, and just bringing it down around more so the outer corner of my eye. Now take a thin brush and a little bit of eye cream or a makeup wipe. This is my preferred way. And I take this and I just clean up the edge. It's gonna give you such sharp results. Primer is optional, but this is the time to go in with your primer now that our skin prep has soaked in. And I'm using the One Size Secure the Blur primer. Foundation, choose something that has good coverage for you. You want a very flawless base. Today I'm gonna use the Anastasia. Just make sure that it has coverage. We're not using a skin tint. And I always use a brush for my foundation so I could get the most coverage possible. Cannot do a baddie glam without being sculpted and bronzed. So this step is one of the most important. I'm using the Tennille J Bronzer in Mocha, which is my favorite. And I'm using a small but fluffy angled brush. Unless you have a really small forehead, you want to start on the forehead and really build up the warmth there. This is going to give you such a beautiful look when it's all blended out. And then I also take it and connect it right into that eyeshadow. I love using a fluffy brush because I can really push and blend the product at the same time that I'm applying it. I'm going a little higher than where my natural cheekbone is to give us that lifted look. Using a clean brush, I'm pressing this in upward motions. Never forget to do your jawline. If you have dark under eyes, now's the time that you can go in with a little bit of color corrector right under your eye. I'm a blush first kind of girly, so I'm gonna go in with baby pink, bubblegum pink blush. Starting with Huda Beauty Bubblegum, I'm gonna take this and place it on the highest point of my cheekbone, blend into the under eye slightly. I do this in thin layers and build it up until I'm happy with the color. Then I usually take a blush that's a little bit more pigmented and build that up on top. This is obviously optional, but I'm a blush girly through and through. This is Bubble by Persona, and it's one of my favorite pink blushes. Also want to take a little bit and put it into your bronzer like that. This is just gonna make everything look really, really cohesive. Use a sponge if you need to melt everything together. Conceal, I'm starting with my Hourglass concealer. This shade is closer to my skin tone. And I'm gonna take a concealer brush and focus this right under the eye. Not going too far into the blush because we're gonna blend that out. Don't forget to highlight your T-zone. This is gonna bring the brightness forward so your face looks snatched and bright in the center. With a concealer that's creamy like Hourglass, I always dry it down with a little fan. This is gonna make the formula a little more opaque and blend even better. Next, I'm gonna use a clean brush. This is one of my favorites for blending, the Real Techniques setting or highlighter brush. Start on the outer part of that concealer and melt that right into the blush. I work my way to the center here and blend that into the sides of the nose and under the eye. You can take a little bit of concealer on an angled brush and go right underneath that liner, and that's gonna give you a super snatched and lifted look. If you feel like you need a little more blush, now's the perfect time to slightly add it back in, taking the smallest amount of this House Labs concealer right in the inner corner just to brighten me up a little bit more. And I love to use a small fluffy brush so I can just blend it. Before you set, you want to take your sponge and blend everything together lightly. The shade of powder is totally up to you. You can do a pink powder, you can do a very light powder or a bright powder. I'm gonna use something in between. This is Huda Beauty Cupcake. Place it on a puff, make sure it's in an even layer, so just tap off any excess. And we're gonna press everything down. I'm even taking it over the cheek here, into my smile lines, onto my chin. And this is why I usually try to use a powder that's not too much lighter than my skin tone. Press, press, press. I personally love when a Baddie Glam is matte and then glowy in all the right places. Shade that's a little closer to my skin tone without the pinky shade. This is Huda Beauty Pound Cake. And I'm just gonna use this for the outer areas of my face. I want you to take that same bronzer that we used in the crease, and this is where everything's gonna start to tie together. We're gonna go over the areas that we put our cream bronzer. I'm just gonna tap and place this in those same areas. Do not forget that jawline. It makes such a difference in photos. Take a little on your brush, bring it into that eyeshadow. Blush is my signature thing as a makeup artist, so I always use 2 to 3 tones. Today I'm using Patrick Ta She's a Doll and Pretty Smart Cosmetics Extra Pretty, shade number 38. Using a small tapered brush, I'm going in with the lighter one first, and I'm tapping that at the highest point of my temples and bringing it slightly under the eye like that, just like how we did with the liquid. She's a Doll right underneath. As you can see, it's a more fuchsia vivid pink. Place it right here, kind of right next to our bronzer. I'm just blending and buffing these 2 tones together. And if you ever feel like you put too much, just take a clean brush and melt everything together. I almost always use a pressed powder foundation or a pressed brightening powder, and I take it on my puff and press it right in this inner corner. Go back to your eyes and just make sure everything is nice and blended. This is your time to perfect everything. Adding a pinky tone highlighter to the blush, it really just starts to bring the skin to life. And an optional step is to lightly clean under that cheekbone, and then I'm gonna brush it away. I'll take a little bit of my bronzer and place it lightly into my hairline or my part, just so that way my scalp, which is super white, doesn't look that white. Quickly went back in and just perfected my brows. At this point, you're probably feeling a little powdery, so I'm gonna take the One Size Powder Melting Spray, or use any spray you like to use. Just make sure it's something that's gonna melt your powders in, and I'm going to drench my face. Also adding just a little bit of that nude color back on. The lip is arguably the most important part of this look. I always go with the brown tone lip liner. Today I'm using Cork by MAC. I slightly overline at the top of my Cupid's bow and underneath. You see how that's just bringing it together already? I just blend in with a brush or your finger, then going in with a very nude lipstick. I'm gonna use MAC Flesh Pot. Another favorite of mine is Charlotte Tilbury Kim KW. This is quite literally one of my favorite nude lipsticks, and I'm sure you can see why. Then I love to take a little bit of a pinky gloss. This is the MAC lip gloss in Snobbish, and I apply this to the center of the lips. Lock the face in with your favorite setting mist. This is the final look, and I hope that you feel like a baddie. Bye.